What's up guys, Phoenix here, and in today's video, as promised in yesterday's video, I'm going to be giving you guys the deck profile for my pretty much beta build of Ravineless Dragunities. It's pretty streamlined. That's kind of what I've been messing around with, trying to get it to be. You kind of want it to just function well, and I'd rather do the same thing 10 times out of 10 than try and do different things and promote inconsistencies. But anyway, I'm going to just go straight into the deck and explain a couple things where I think I need to be explaining. Triple Ducks, the one Zephyros, and a single copy of Mistletoe. The reason Mistletoe is at 1 in this is that he's searchable through Tempest, which you have plenty of actual outlets into. The deck has plenty of draw power, so you can just draw it. And honestly, unless you're searching this card, you really don't really want it in this particular version because you have things like Tefnuits, which essentially are another Mistletoe in general, because you can just, special Tefnuit, summon Phalanx, or summon something else. So multiple copies of Mistletoe are by no stretch of the imagination needed. So the one copy just kind of gets where it needs to be. I mean, if you wanted to put in a second one, you could. Honestly, that's one of the things, but I'm pretty set on just one right now. It seems to be fine. For the tuners, triple Phalanx, the one Galaxy Serpent, and the one Labradorite Dragon. That gives you 5 overall cards of consonants targets. 6 if you count Gold Sark being able to, hit Tempest. So it ultimately gives you plenty of reasons to play cards of consonants and allow you to draw deeper. If I was just playing the triple Phalanx and I wasn't playing a Hieratic Engine and wasn't playing these vanillas, I honestly wouldn't be running cards of consonants. And if I wasn't running these vanillas, I can't say that I probably wouldn't even be playing Dragon Shrine either. Because being able to dump the vanilla and the tuner is just, it's a little bit, makes a card better than just taking a -1 to put Phalanx in grave. But for the Heretic Engine, it is extremely bar minimum basics. It's as streamlined as I can get it, while meshing with the deck very well and still providing good statistical advantage of opening things and things like that. Only 2 copies of Sue, 2 copies of Tefnuit, so essentially this kind of takes the place of the 2nd and 3rd Mistletoe in people that are trying to run those builds. I mean, you could run the 3rd Tefnuit, and I was for a while, but I swapped it out for Blaster in this situation, just because ultimately for opening combo plays and all that, having the 3rd Tefnuit in this deck actually only increases your odds of opening a certain combo or anything like that by 1% overall. So it wasn't really worth it for me to main the 3rd copy. And the hands that you lose with this deck are the hands where you draw too much redundancy. So it seems better at 2. And the single copy of a set. Now, I've taken a lot of shit for this, but this is honestly really only there for when you win the die roll. You have 4 copies of it when you want it. Technically 5 if you count Tempest having the possibility of being drawn with another wind. So you have 4 to 5 copies of it when you want it. So you don't just, automatically have to pass turn. It gives you more option when you go first after the die roll or whatever. But when you don't need it, or if you just want extra Sue fodder, you just have it. Honestly, these are the only 5 Hieratics I run. If Convocation wasn't a card, I would be running probably 1 more Sue, 1 more Tefnuit, and 1 more set. But since Convocation just lets you pick and choose which Hieratic you want, it's not really necessary. And it still gives you good statistics to have these 5. And that's really all I really care about. Like I said, you could swap for another Sue or another Tefnuit, but it really only affects your overall percentages by about 1%. For the rest of the big cards, 1 Tempest, 1 Blaster, and Red Eyes. I originally wasn't running Blaster, but it's just a nice, good, free 2800 beater. It serves as another way to remove your Tempest, get more recovery plays going. Being big by itself is pretty good. Also, just, it's another thing that you can do. I was noticing that once the Tempest was in circulation, or if you Gold Sark for the Tempest and you had Dragon Shrines, there was nothing really meaningful you were doing with those Dragon Shrines. Having 2 rulers in the deck just allows you to be more meaningful with it, especially if you have an Atom left over for the turn. Unless you have some sort of Sue play to pop back rows, you're not really doing anything meaningful with your Atom. Just ultimately things that just made it more kind of beneficial to run Blaster. You don't need to run the Flambeau Guard. I mean, you could fit it in, but there's just really no room for it, and it's really not necessary. You already have enough like ways to drop with cards of consonants. And really, that's the only reason you'd really run the guard is if like you wanted to cold start for the blaster and get a consonants target. That's really nothing too much else that you'd want to do for it. Everything else is pretty much covered by the deck's core structure. But I believe that's 18 monsters? Yeah, I think it's 18. There's 15 spells, triple Heretic Seal of Convocation. Like I said before, if this card was not at 3 or did not exist, I would probably have just beefed up the Heretic Engine. I mean, it's just having 3 copies, even though you only have 5 Heretics. I mean, this essentially also counts as like a Rota for a Dux. There are plenty of times when you just are able to protect a Gaderg, and you just like top deck for turn, you top deck one of these, and you just Convocation for like a Tefnuit, and then use Gaderg to add Dux and discard the Tefnuit when your field is already established, but you just want to make further pushes. So it essentially kind of picks up a lot of slack in that essence. 2 Dragon Shrines. I don't like 3. 3 is way too overkill. You get the Phalanx Engrave where you need it. The thing is that the deck can function without Phalanx Engrave. Like you can open hands like Phalanx Instant Fusion, Phalanx Mistleton, Phalanx Tefnuit, or you can just do things like that. Like the Dragon Shrine putting Phalanx Engrave is not nearly as important as you think it is. Like you can just draw Phalanx and normal summon it and make it into your plays rather seamlessly. It's pretty easy to do actually. Double cards of consonants, like I said, technically 6 targets. So double Instant Fusion. I'm only running 2 Maveless in the extra deck, so I don't really want 3. And kind of the same thing with Dragon Shrine. I don't want to be bogging myself down with too many cards that can only be used once per turn. In that essence. Oh god, I have to sneeze. Fight it! The 1 Gold Sark, just, to hit your Tempest. If you draw the Tempest, or if you already got the Tempest in circulation, that's the thing, is that another reason why I'm not running the Flambeau Guard in this is that in basically every circumstance where you already have the Tempest, you just Gold Sark for like a Dux. There's nothing really beneficial you can get from just Gold Sarking Blaster and getting a Flambeau Guard. Even if you do have a Cards of Consonants in hand, when you can just Gold Sark for Dux. I mean, you're either going to be Gold Sarking for Tempest, Dux, or like Instant Fusion, which has happened quite a bit. Like, if I know I'm going to have Gaderg plays happening, I will Gold Sark for just an Instant Fusion so that I can guarantee having Dux Instant Fusion on, a turn, 2 turns in the future at least. But anyway, 2 copies of Space. I was thinking about Wingbeat, but I decided I'd better relegate those to the side deck. Just because I only want it, like, games aren't going second, and, like, Sue picks apart enough back row as is, considering that you can just abuse it, because you have Red Eyes and access to Ptolemy. So you can just do cute things like Red Eyes Sue back, and then overlay your 2 other level 6s that you have left over during your combo for Ptolemy, and use Ptolemy to add a Hieratic back to your hand, and then use Sue to pop. Just things like that. You can generally just whittle around every single back row with Sue, and Space just kind of picks up the slack. It's nothing really major. It's nothing warranting, running an inconsistent card like Wingbeat over. I'd rather side it for all the games going second. Anyway, last 3 spells are a triple Upstart Goblin, just because you want to improve those consistency odds by that 3% that it lets you improve by. Yeah. So, for the traps, I only run 7, triple Reckless Greed. You don't want to run cards that necessarily hinder your strategy as much. Like I was originally running a Torrential and 2 Call the Haunteds in place of this. But this just overall is a little bit better due to the fact that, like, with the Blaster in the deck has enough, ability to put pressure on the board late game, with the Tempest and Blaster, and being able to, do Hieratic plays to make Ptolemy and put Red Eyes back in hand. The deck has plenty enough recovery, as is, so you don't really want cards that are just going to sit in your opening hand and do nothing like Call does. Call is really just a recovery card, and, I mean, you can use it to interlace in your combos, but you already have enough combo pieces in the deck. So you'd rather just run cards like Reckless that just further fuel you and power you into your combo pieces. I hate to sound like a broken record, but I mean, this is a deck where you want to turbo into the Dux or turbo into enough cards that will allow you a play to get you a Dux relatively quickly. And that's what these do for you. And the last 4 traps are just Double Fiendish Chain, Bottomless, and Warning. Just standard good traps at pretty much any stage of the game. I mean, it's just, they're good cards. For the extra deck is really tight now that we have Ravineless. So there are some things that I'd rather run but didn't have room for. Like, I want to put a Draco second here, but it's so rare that you make it, and the extra deck is so tight. There's just things other than that come up. But 1 Crimson Blader, the Scrap Dragon, Thought Ruler, because this is actually very important now because you pay with Warning and you pay with Instant Fusion for Ravineless. Being able to hit and get some of that life back actually wins you quite a few games. Also, the fact that they can't deprison it, things like that, just factor into it. Stardust Spark and Stardust Dragon. Stardust Spark is easily my favorite go-to like first turn card. Especially like since this deck has so few actual like real traps that you're wanting to protect yourself with. Since Spark Dragon can protect itself and then like protect an Atom and do things like that. It's just it's relatively really good for that instance. 1 copy of Gatorade, you don't need more than 1 because you can recycle it with Red Eyes, and you only really need to get it search off for like 1 Dux, and then you're typically good to try and do a combo. I mean, it's abusable enough as is. People are running 2 and 3, and there's no real reason to. Like with Spark Dragon, you're basically protecting your Ravine from battle. So it's just things like that ultimately factor into it. Triple Vajrayana. I really like the ultra printing of this. Like, I got some German ultras, and I just really like them. I like the fact that they're updated with PSCT, and like the new artwork makes the box bigger, the artwork box bigger, and things like that. But anyway, 3 Vajrayana, it's really standard. If you're going to question why you're running 3 Vajrayanas, I'd like to direct you to a different video where any form of standard Dragunity theory is explained. 2 copies of Ravineless. This card is amazing. I'm so glad we got it. Being able to just drop a free level 4 Winged Beast at any point in the game is just really beneficial to this deck. It is really what makes things happen that really couldn't happen before, when just like Garuda and things like that. Anyway, the last 4 cards in the extra deck are all Exceeds. 1 Bouncer, 1 Ptolemy, 1 Atum, and 1 Daigusto Emerald. Daigusto Emerald actually comes up a lot, and especially as second effect to bring back a non-effect monster in the grave. You typically do use that from time to time to like bring back like a vanilla and continue combos or something like that. It's actually a little bit funny that you can do that, but just being able to recycle and draw cards, especially considering that like Dux and Instant Fusion makes this, and it also leaves a phalanx lingering. So if you had something like a Tefnuit, then you can make Spark Dragon Emerald, which will basically shuffle back 6 cards and net you 2 free cards. And it's just really good to be able to shuffle 3 back and draw 1, especially when you're locked under Reckless or anything like that. Just being able to give you that extra draw, and also just give you 6 Duxes instead of 3, and being able to recycle your Hieratics just a convocation into. Just things like that. Overall allow you to do pretty cool things. And the reason I'm not running Gaia Dragon in the extra for this is that since Ravine Zephyros is actually impossible, since Ravine is banned, this Atum is the Atum is basically never left on the field anymore. 9 times out of 10, you're banishing Atum for Red Eyes that you bounced off the Zephyros. So there's not really any point in putting Gaia Dragon in the extra deck here. It's just a wasted space. There's really just no point. There's no point at all in it. Like I said, the side deck is not finalized yet. I'm still trying to teach myself how to side with this deck. I am going to actually enter one of my local tournaments with this on Friday and see how well I can do with it. Because, I actually need to get some form of actual competitive scene testing. I've done a lot of, casual testing with it, and the results have been just very promising. But ultimately, I need to get some competitive testing under my belt, even though I don't think I'm going to actually be attending any major events until the format's over, and hopefully we'll have Ravine back by then. Even if we have just 1 copy of Ravine, we essentially have 5, because we have 3 terraformings to search it, and then you can do things like run pseudo space, like a single pseudo space, to give you technically a second copy of Ravine. things like that. But anyway, that's enough rambling for this video. I will put up a video tomorrow, maybe. It'll be either tomorrow or Friday night. Or tomorrow night is Friday night. It'll either be Friday night or Saturday night. Demonstrating some of, how the hieratic combos work for any of you that are just really curious and just wondering what specific angles I take with those combos. I'll put a video up explaining some of those combos in detail to continue this little segment of reviving this quote-unquote dead deck. But anyway, yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content, I guess, if you like the content. Leave a comment down below. Tell me if you, just like the things that I'm doing. I'm really, really just awaiting feedback at all times. If you want to give me more direct feedback, you can go to my Facebook fan page. There is a link in the description for that. Click an ad if you have not, and help me help you. I would greatly appreciate it. It helps me make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. It just makes me more enticed to make videos. Other than that, until next time, guys, take care.